Meeting to order. All board members are present, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, Mr. Gordon is going to be your...
Going to be Craig.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the typer. I'm not going to run the show here.
Well, just let us know
I'll help out where
if
we
we're
can.
too fast or too slow or whatever we need. So,
All right, we will move to public, or open forum, public input. Did you have something, sir?
I do.
All right, come on up.
I'm not on my phone, but this old guy's got hearing aids, and it's attached to it, so. I got, what I want to talk about is the bullying policy that you guys have in your, help me out, brains don't work too good either, handbook,
Sure.
okay?
Sure.
So I made up a couple because it's hard to kind of, you can share if you like each other, I don't know if you don't.
Could you share your name with us, please?
Pardon?
Could you share your name with us?
My name is Larry Fossum.
Okay. Thank you.
And I got all that pertinent information on your thing back there. So.
Oh, perfect, thanks.
Okay. So, let me get to the, yeah, okay, it's on there. It's easier for me to go ahead and just kind of go through on this because I highlighted kind of what I'm going to talk about. Because I kind of need to set the stage for what I want to propose when we get to the end. So, yeah, if you kind of look at that, and what I wanted to talk about is bullying, and then as far as the school is concerned, or whoever's involved in it, accountability to the process that you guys go through. So on page 21, which is that first one I highlighted, it says students are expected to display proper behavior towards other students, faculty, administration, and all other adult persons affiliated with the school, which makes sense. They're supposed to, be respectful. And if you get to the next page, should be about halfway down there, that says, each and every student will be advised thereof and will thereafter be expected to know the policy explaining the rules and regulations of this school system. Ignorance of the policy will not be accepted as a valid excuse for non-compliance. And basically just saying, it's their responsibility to know what's in the policy, correct? That's what it's about. Okay. If you get down towards the bottom, there's one that says, number 5, it says to conduct himself or herself properly in school, on the school grounds, buses, and the school functions. In other words, they're supposed to abide by those policies that you put in effect. I mean, they're supposed to be good kids. Then at the bottom it says, generally those rules of conduct which are considered acceptable in the home, church, and in other places will be acceptable in school. Okay, now, none of us here have a way to control what goes on in a home. That's their dwelling and that's what they need to do. So we can't control what goes on there, but when they come to school, you have an opportunity to be part of that layered system, because when they start out in the home and they don't, let's just say they don't get any discipline, when they come to school, that's almost like the second layer of, not just discipline, but training, okay? And the school has an opportunity and a responsibility to be part of that, because if the school doesn't do it, because the parents didn't do it, they're going to end up as teenagers or early 20s and they're going to be in the penal system. We will deal with them then. So my point here gets to be is, when they come to school, you have an opportunity to be part of that training and that learning. So even though it's sometimes uncomfortable, it's something that needs to be done. Okay? And you can kind of skip that next page. And then if you get down towards the bottom on 24, it says bullying is unjustified and typically repeated. Well, if it's not stopped when it starts, it'll keep going. It'll keep going. And normally speaking, it's going to get more intense, it's going to get worse, generally speaking. I mean, every situation is different. So I'm just saying that if it doesn't get stopped, it's going to keep on going. And they have all those different ones of bullying, which most of the time, from what I can tell, it gets to be that verbal or emotional. And that's what a person, I mean, not that the physical isn't important too, but it can affect them little kids when they're little kids and affect them their whole life. Okay? And if you get on page 25 at the top, it said, each student must adhere to the following rules set forth in this, and I don't know how to say it other than we, us, whatever that,
Oh, it was like a group that,
Yeah.
like a program that
however
we
you
had.
say it,
Yep.
because it's hard for me to
Yep.
get that. So they're supposed to adhere to those rules that you basically put in place. And of course, the first one says we will not bully others, and it goes down there. Then it gets down to, in the next paragraph, it says the school board believes that standards for student behavior must be set cooperatively through interaction among the students, the parents, the guardians, and staff, and community members of the school district, producing an atmosphere that encourages students to grow in self-discipline. The development of this atmosphere requires respect and for self and others, as well as for the district and community property on the part of the students and the community members. The point of this is it's partly the responsibility of the community members as well as the school. Okay, so when these policies, especially this particular one, because it's brought up in when this particular one is put together, the community needs to be involved in this. And later here we'll get with the privacy stuff. I don't mean that, but the community, because it's you've heard that saying, it takes a community to raise a child. Well, that's part of it. You're setting the rules. The community needs to be part of it. And then a little lower it says, if repeated incidents occur, the levels of discipline set forth by the discipline matrix will be followed at the direction of the principal, the superintendent, or the school board. Okay, I'm not saying that that isn't okay, but in our society today, accountability and transparency is really important. And to me, what can happen right here is there isn't. It's just going to get taken care of by whoever gets involved in it at the lower level. And I'm just saying that there doesn't seem to be a lot of accountability or transparency there. And then the last one that says the building principals shall develop an annual process of discussing the school district policy on bully prevention with student and staff. The school district will incorporate information regarding this policy into the school handbook. Absolutely. But it doesn't talk anything about the community being involved in going through those policies to see if there's anything in there that they can contribute to it. Okay? And then when you get to the, I think it's right at the back, the last page on there, it says, although this guide is intended, now we're talking about the matrix, although this guide is intended to direct disciplinary action, actual consequences may be modified based on the direction of the principal, superintendent, school board for any student situation. There again, you're back to doing it with just those certain people involved in it. I'm not saying that the community members need to be part of any discipline action that needs to be done, but somewhere along the line here, it's a part of their community. They need to understand that. Okay, now let's not get into, I'm not trying to take and get into this privacy thing, because if something like that were to happen, and I'm the preacher for the Calvary Way Church, I don't need to know a person's name. I don't even need to know all the different things that went on with who and so on and so forth. But I would want to know, when there was this kind of an issue that happened, what did you do? So you get an outside idea, or outside, I can't think of the name, idea.
Like a perspective.
Yeah, there you go. See, I knew there was the right
Yeah.
word, but then you could get that from someone who was on the outside looking in instead of from the inside looking out. And it comes right down, to a certain degree, it comes down to being accountable for what you're going to do. And I don't believe it's good for any school board, and I don't care where you're at or anything else. Even in a bit of business, you gotta be accountable. So, and I talked about the 2 levels of discipline or training in the home, in the school, and that goes. You can include the church too, but that depends on what the family says. Where are they going to let the kids go to church, and then what can you do? But they have a part in it too if they come to that church. So the only thing that I wanted to propose with this is I propose that there be a change to that policy to include the community members to monitor the decisions that are made, because that is going to help the accountability, and it's also going to help the transparency. And I'll bring one other thing up. When you go and you have an issue within the school, none of us want anybody to think we're doing anything wrong. Everybody wants to think you're a really good person, you got a good business or whatever. Schools can be the same way. If something happens in your school, if you can keep it low key, then it maybe makes the school look better. That's not the best for the child. And the best for the child is what we should be looking at. So I'm just saying, and I'm not pointing out any instances, I'm just saying it needs to be accountable. It needs to, because the best interest here is looking out for the child. Okay, so that's kind of all I had, but anybody got any questions? Did it make sense? I mean, I know I'm not sitting where you're sitting. Okay, I'm sitting as a grandpa now, as a great grandpa, and don't get me wrong here. I am not sitting there going like, but I was in the military for 35 years, and I want what we stood for to go through the school. And you guys have an opportunity to make sure that carries on. Because them kids need to learn responsibility and respect. Mm-hmm. And you have a piece. And I just, and besides that, the other thing they brought up as I was looking through there, your, whatever that matrix thing, 2014. That's 7 years ago. Whether we like, what us old guys like or not, it changes. You need to kind of keep up and go through that. So I would propose that, and then I would like to know, I would like to at least know that you could get back to me. So I know what you decide, because I'm a little ways away here. It's not like I can run in every day and see how things are going. Mm-hmm. So can that be done?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, we could really look at
Because
the
you got
policy.
there's email, phone numbers, and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. We won't be able to add it
Thank you for
tonight,
your
but
service.
maybe at the next one, right?
Just let me know, and I'll
Okay.
answer anything. But I appreciate your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody have anything else? All right, we will move to approve agenda, changes to agenda.
The agenda is it's as it is written, so
Okay.
there was nothing added or deleted at that point. So everything on there should be discussed tonight. So.
All right, so we need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second. Moved by Leishner, second by Schoenfelder.
All right.
All in
Approve the
Favor
favor?
agenda.
say aye.
All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor, say aye.
We're used to Craig doing it.
Yeah. I'll
We'll
try
get
and
there.
do better.
We'll get there. All right, move to conflict of interest. I don't see any, and nothing's been brought up that we know of. Okay. All right, so we'll move to approve consent agenda. A is accept financial reports. B is approve January minutes. C is approve claims. D is approve contract. This is a contract for the Head Boys Golf retroactive from the fall of 2021. Troy Kane. E is resignation. This resignation is from Mrs. Leichner, who teaches K through 3 at the Old Elm Colony School. And that's all I got. So we need a motion
just clarify the motion on the exception of those, if we could add the resignation, a point of, now I'm trying to think of the right word, extreme appreciation, extreme appreciation, Mrs. Leichner, whether you like it or not, for the years of service that you've given the Parkston School District and the kids. So,
How many years is it?
It's not more than 25. How many is,
I don't remember, I don't have the,
I think Darcy is 31, so it's gotta be about 30, 29, 30.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your work over the years.
So you still need a motion in a
Yeah.
second.
Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it.
moved by Weber, seconded by Prohl, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. All right, we'll move to 8 is information discussion staff reports from high school principal.
All right, don't have a lot. Conferences were, since the last board meeting, only had about 70% of the high school show up, so it was a little bit smaller. It was a cold night. Generally, second conferences are worse than the first. But everything went pretty well with that. I got some good discussions going, I think. Staff all were really positive after that. To touch on the middle school thing just a little bit here, we kind of have moved to get that started and going. I've sent a letter home with all the 5th grade students to kind of warn the parents and so on. We will be setting up a meeting with all parents and students from the 5th grade first, so that they can, number one, get a lot of their questions answered. And then also just so that they get a chance to walk through the high school. I did talk to the 5th graders. They were already kind of aware of it, and they're excited. And then we will also have a day come this spring where they'll get to walk down and spend a period or so just seeing what the high school end runs like. One thing that I think is extremely important for both parents and those students was that they will not be in the hallways with the high school kids except before school and after school. During the school day, we'll be able to separate them pretty much the entire time, and that'll be the entire middle school will be that way. They'll be 5 minutes altered, so that's going to help with a lot of those nervous concerns, I think, especially the first couple weeks. What they'll find out is after the first couple weeks, things generally go pretty smooth. And yeah, that's about it. Coming up here, we're getting to the end of, we just got done with midterms, so we're kind of finishing up that first or third quarter and getting ready to roll. We've got a lot of activities that are starting to kick up. The FCCLA, FFA, FBLA are all going to start getting ready for their state conferences and so on. So those will be the things. The FFA will start their, I can't even think of the right term. What's the?
I get confused all the time too. I don't know.
Yeah, some an acronym where they go out and their competitions. So they'll be starting their competitions here real shortly. So other than that, everything's going good.
Okay.
So Eric, how did semester tests, how did that go overall? And do we have some kids, because of their grades and everything, not having to take them what we had passed here a year or two ago?
No, we got rid of that once COVID hit because that was all tied to attendance also.
Okay.
And that's been one of, and honestly, that's been a struggle at times for us is some of the attendance, because now if you've got a bad headache, we're staying home. And I'm not arguing against that. That's, one of the differences. 7-8 years ago, it was, oh, it's this low fever, don't worry about it, we can make it through the day. Now it's, you got a headache, we got to go home. And, so we've got just a lot more kids that are in and out and so on. So if we were to do that again, it would be based entirely upon grades. Not against it, but it's not quite what we had wanted to do at the time. So that would be a discussion for, I know the kids would be all for it. It did help with grades a little bit. It helped drastically with attendance. And that's...
So everybody took semester tests? Huh?
Yes, everybody took semester tests. We had again, that was when we were starting to get one of our COVID peaks, so we had some kids that were gone. They made up all their tests when they got back and so on. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right, Mr. Fisher.
First elementary, we had pretty good turnout for conferences. I would say we were in the 90% attendance, which is maybe a little lower than our first one, but still they were very well attended from our families. So that's good. We're, same thing as Mr. Norton said, we're progressing nicely, I think, throughout the year, and kids are comfortable. I'm really liking what I'm seeing with the engagement level with our students, and you can tell that they have really good relationships with their teachers, which I think allows for a lot of good learning is happening right now. So I'm really excited about that and where we're at for the year. Right now with our Mindset of the Month, we're working on Live to Give. So we're doing kind of a neat project. I met with student council and we talked about trying to help our kids learn about service. And so we came up with a list of about 20 things that the student council kind of helped come up with, and then we tiered that for each grade level. And so each grade level has, so for example, like kindergarten, they need to do 5 things on that list, whereas a 6th grader needs to do, I think, like 15 things on that list. And then it's all predicated around serving others. It can be helping at home, because kindergartners can't really travel, or going out in the neighborhood and helping in whatever way they can. And then if they complete that, they get a little Trojan decal, and we're putting those on the lockers. And so that's been kind of fun to see those popping up and trying to help our kids understand the value of serving others. And I think that's been really taken off kind of nicely for where we're at in the school year right now. So other than that, I think things school-wise are going pretty well. No real big updates. We've set our dates for our preschool screening. We'll be doing that early March, so March 9th and 10th we're going to be doing our preschool screening. And then we're going to do our kindergarten a little bit later. And we're looking, numbers for those, we don't exactly know the preschool yet, but looking at our kindergarten numbers, we're going to be at, what we would call probably capacity with those levels, So enrollment's looking good with those lower levels. I'm excited about that, and we'll find out here shortly kind of where we're at preschool-wise. So those are some of the things that we've been working on. As far as AD goes, we're wrapping up kind of our winter seasons. It's an exciting time, tournament time. Gearing up. This is kind of our last week of regular season for the basketball teams. We had state gymnastics last week. Wrestling has their region tournament this Saturday. So all those things are kind of winding down, and kids are getting excited for tournament time. We just found out today that our wrestling team qualified for the state dual tournament. So they'll be competing in that, and it's set up in a little different structure than in the past. So this year it's going to be individual wrestling is Thursday, Friday, and then the duels will be all by themselves on Saturday. So I guess that's a little different, something new and a little twist there. Basketball will wrap up their season, girls Thursday and boys on Monday, and then girls will start their region tournament play on Tuesday. So things are really moving quickly. I think it's been a good winter as far as teams competing and activities happening. So all is well right now. We're relatively healthy in the elementary buildings, and I think our sports team. So hopefully we continue that trend too. So that's all I got.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Mikkonen.
Based on my notes here, I'm not going to speak to a lot of it. Basically, the things that I have in there, unless you have specific questions about any of those topics, whether it's fire marshal report, in-service that's coming up a week from today, our plan for that, our current district staff openings. We're in the process of looking for those middle school, high school ELA position, middle school science position, and then now we'll add Mrs. Leichner's colony position to that as well. I think the thing there to realize that I put in my notes is it's a little bit scary right now because the pool, the fact that we've advertised 3 of those positions and we only have 3 apps. For all 3 of those positions, not 3 apiece, just 3 total. And I haven't had any inquiries other than those people that have applied. So The pool is really, I don't know, non-existent, or kids aren't, the college kids aren't being engaged right now, or they're where they're at. I honestly don't know, but I looked online because we advertise in the Associated School Boards. Is where a lot of people find that information, and even the number of views, I can tell how many times it's been viewed, each position, how many times it's been viewed, and one of them is in single digits, so nobody's even looked at it. I mean, very few have looked at it. So it's a little concerning at this stage of the game.
And we were probably a couple of those that looked at it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where we're at on our staff openings. Just know that it's going to be a process, and we're in this situation where I think it's flipped. We almost have to go out and recruit instead of getting applications for those positions and then engage them in that process. I can see Mr. Fisher, Mr. Norton, and myself making phone calls by way of, hey, I've heard maybe this person is looking for a job type of deal, and would you be interested kind of concept. So we'll see where it goes.
So Mr. Mickelin, do you think statewide, you talked about the pool not being very big, but do we have just a lot of openings overall?
Yeah, so last time I was on the Associated School Board's website, even as of right now, and it's been that way almost back to August. I mean, we're up to, there's 20 entries on a page. I'm pushing 20 pages.
And that's just South Dakota?
Yeah. There's a few Minnesota schools in there. Once in a while, maybe an Iowa school that are embedded in there, but the majority of it is South Dakota schools being represented for looking for positions. So
is that where like someone from out of state would look for the job too?
If they understand that that's a place to do that, there's a couple other in the college systems. Minnesota has a placement system that I've used in the past. I know Shane had used it too, because him and I talked about that. As far as tapping into the university systems, I went to a teacher fair in the fall at USD. We have our state largest job fair coming up March 2nd, and that's in Sioux Falls. We just got an invitation today. The West River Black Hills State has their teacher fair. And that's 2 days after the fact. I'm not sure we'll be able to make that one just because of the timing and the distance on that. So,
are there other places we can post the position that would make sense?
Well, part of that is I've used the resource from an Argus Leaders perspective. They have an online resource that they do that, but you guys, if you'd be shocked, I mean shocked to the standpoint, it's going to be sticker shock, because what it takes to place an ad in those. Like in an Argus Leader?
I mean online resources, like where out-of-state people might be more likely to see something.
Other than, on our website, I have never really, like if you're talking about LinkedIn and Indeed, even Facebook, I mean, certainly push that stuff out there, and I won't say it's a last resort, but certainly something we're going to have to take a look at to see if we can't get that information on there. I'm on LinkedIn. I have an account on there. And it bugs me all the time. Are you in the job of hiring or employment? I can't remember what it's asking me, and so far I've ignored it. But
I would say though the site that he was talking about, that's pretty much where everybody goes. Talking to other principals, they're getting a lot of applications from the Philippines. And that comes off of that site. So if people in the Philippines know enough to go to that site to look for jobs, then most of South Dakota, and that's where, if you talk to our staff, that's where they would look, just to see. So,
and our regional system needs to do a better job as far as letting their placement centers know and letting their students know, their teacher candidates, that Associated School Boards is the place to go look. So when I was down there in the fall, every kid that I interacted with, or every college student I interacted with said, hey, by the way, have you heard of this? Some have heard of it, but a majority of them had not. And they were like, oh, geez, thanks a lot, and half of them haven't even heard of the teacher job fair coming up in March, and explain that stuff to them so they're in the loop, as far as, and they wrote it down. I mean, they were like, oh, that's awesome to know, write that information down so they're out there looking per se. So it's just, it's going to be a struggle. I mean, that's just the way it is. So
Do we have any, do you get student teachers through? I know we have Mrs. Sorensen right now, but any other student teachers that you guys take
we do
on,
have
or-
a student teacher, Mr. Fisher, in 5th grade with, or 4th grade with Mrs. Mulkey.
Yep.
Okay.
And we do have a student, Ms. Sorensen is here,
Mhm.
transitioned out of the para role in order to do
Mhm.
her student teaching with Mrs. Matthias. So
Mhm.
certainly in conversation
Mhm.
with those people as well. So hopefully we can take that process of maybe in-house and encourage those people to take an opportunity or at least take a run at that.
Is
So-
there a way that our teachers can share something out on social media that says, because I mean, teachers have teacher friends.
Mhm.
So is there a way that teachers can share something so that other people that they're friends with would know?
Well, I think they're free to do that. I mean, as far as what platforms they're on, you know, if that's something we get out in front of and encourage them to, hey, let people know that there's opportunity does exist. It's been my experience where when those things were originally posted in-house, they're letting their colleagues know.
I just think, you know, you post
Yeah.
some, I don't know, our HR gives us a, here you can post this on your Facebook page and it has a nice picture and they just click on it. and
Sure.
Takes them right to where they would apply or whatever.
Yeah. It's a good,
I don't know.
they can
Just
certainly-
thought, you know, how many people see that stuff? You might catch someone's eye, I don't know.
right, okay. Yeah, we can take a look at that. I wanted to show you guys the new website and the app up on the board here. So I want to thank Mr. Kinnenberg for really investing in this and embracing the notion of transitioning away from Blackboard. This has a tendency to be more of again, an interactive site. What's the right word, Mr. Kinnenberg? A static versus dynamic. Yeah, so this is a dynamic site, and I don't. I'll put him on the spot, but I think the easeability, the functionality of it, if he would agree with, it's an improvement, Mr. Kinnenberg. Yeah. So you'll see this. These tabs are all active. There's one element that's missing here. We have events. We have news. These are things more center-based. If I clicked on that, there'd be a little bit further of a news story. Live feeds. We have to. These can happen on the back side of things that this can be constant. This is the part that becomes dynamic. Once we give teachers build their accounts, give them permissions, they can be posting on this. Continuously, and it's going to go to the live feed. And when we go to live feed, the issue is a one-stop shop on this, where we can post to those platforms. We have an improved Facebook page, or we've what's the right word? Maybe condensed some of the things that were out there, and we have a true Parkston Trojan Facebook page instead of 3 or 4 that have been out there. And it would take you to this now. So if I hit the live feed, it goes there, it goes to the news story, it goes to Facebook, and go to Twitter, it can go to Instagram. So I type the article, click the right buttons, boom, it's out there. Whatever I want to, whatever statements we want to do, whatever we want to post, whatever information we want to share, it's instantaneous like that. So, but that's the different look. And there's a section down here missing where about us. There could be another section down here about us. That's where we would kind of describe some things there. Mr. Kinnenberg talked about that, about what makes us unique. What are some things that make us stand out? If somebody was searching for a school, looking at websites, what is that one, couple, 2, 3, or 4 things there that would catch somebody's attention? So we have to think about some of those things, I think, that are unique to the Parkston School District that help us, stand alone or above or set us apart. So it interests people. So, but I just wanted to show you that. There's the scroll up here. If you have not done this, this page here, I put that in your packet. If you haven't downloaded the app, get it out of the Google Play Store or the Apple Store, and that's highly useful too. So I'd encourage you to do that. So I just wanted to share that, with you guys as to the transformation has been done as of last Friday. So that's what you're going to be looking at hopefully from here on out.
We've heard lots of positive things, so it's very good.
I do have to say, a couple of posts that we put out there, within a matter of a couple hours, over 1,000 people reacted to it.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
awesome.
think it's a very quick, efficient way to get the information out.
Legislative update, I put those list of bills in there. We don't have to spend a lot of time on that. There's going to be some things here that are coming out. Mr. Prohl's done a nice job of being a Legislative Action Network guy and pushing that stuff out to everybody. But I would kind of hang on to that sheet just out of curiosity for yourself, so you can see what is relevant, has a good description as to what it is, and if you're wondering, well, what does that bill even entail? And there's a bill coming up, 198, I think it's going to be heard, and that's going to basically, the attempt is going to wipe out the Juvenile Justice Reform Initiative out of probably 5-6 years ago that Governor Dugard had promoted highly to get our numbers down that we were incarcerating juveniles, to a greater extent. So it's become a tough spot for school districts. So school board election information on that, I can tell you the timelines on that. They open up, I think, March 1st and I think like March 27th. So if anybody wants to file a petition, I told Lindsay, you got to run, or you're that position up. You were appointed for a year, so there's 2 years left on that position. I think, Jill, your position is up. So if you wanted to take out those petitions, they could do that starting after March 1st, circulate them, and then they have to be back in by the end of March. And I know Mr. Bruning was going to have that stuff published in the paper there, so it should be forthcoming. So. And that would be it for my information. So,
any big items on that fire marshal report at all, or?
Nothing, not a lot of huge stuff, just a lot of little stuff. But there are some things on there that are going to, in my opinion, I'm the type of guy where if I'm being told that it's deficient, then we need to fix it. And there's going to be a few items there that are going to have some expense in order to fix it. And I've talked with Mr. Bruning about that and sent out the corrective action plan to the fire marshal and sent it all out to the staff and asked them to police their areas and stuff. And a lot of it's just little things, that within the scope of a day-to-day practice. One thing that I can just express to you, the elementary, they do an awesome job. But if you walk down the elementary hallway, or fire marshal says you can't have more than 20% of your wall with flammable materials on it. Well, we'll walk down the hallway.
Whoopsie.
And it's in its excess. Or a transom. So when you're walking out of a classroom door, they're in the habit, they're elementary teachers. I get it. It's been this way since ever. But technically, you got flammable materials on a fire-rated door that are going to accelerate the process. You can't decorate your door. Little things like that. Or using power strips and daisy chaining them to get to the nearest deal. So I got to plug that power strip into that power strip into that power strip to plug it into the wall.
Everybody does that.
You can't do that stuff. And here's the reason why. So if anybody ever asks, this is what I told them. I said, listen, guys, I get it. I understand it. But the rationale behind this is, if there's ever an event, and I'll just point out Miller, for instance, what just happened. I don't know if exactly what happened, but if we have an event like that, 2 people are showing up. The fire marshal is being one of them, and your insurance company is being the other. And what do you think they're looking for? Because you think they're just going to come up and say, well, how much is that? How much did you want to fix that? That's not a slam dunk. They want to know what you did, what you didn't do, in order to make sure that you were compliant with everything you were supposed to be compliant before they say, oh yeah, that was a tough deal. We'll help you rebuild. Or we'll help you fix it. But if it's like, that's been on the fire marshal, and fire marshal says that was the antecedent or that was the root cause, well, yeah, that's been on the fire marshal report for the last 5 years. That's interesting. Guess what? Adjustment, the underwriter, yeah, I'm not really interested in maybe being so inclined to help you out because it maybe could have been prevented. So who should pay for it? Should we? Should the insurance company? People say, well, that's what you have insurance for. And you don't know the insurance scheme because that's one would think that, but that's not true. I learned that the hard way a couple years ago in school setting with an experience that we're all aware with that I'm not even gonna reference. So just think of 40 miles to the west of here and what happened. And it doesn't work that way. So
Is that a yearly report or inspection?
they tell me he's been here yearly. I think the size of the facility, well, my experience has been, I only saw the guy every other, which got a year of reprieve typically, but yeah, it's supposed to be, I believe so. And they're shorthanded. I mean, just like everything else, so. But that's a great question, and I wasn't avoiding that, but we're doing our best to rectify those scenarios, so. And the teachers have been good. I mean, they're, for the most part, they're complying and trying to police themselves, so.
All right. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to discussion items. First one there is the review facility use policy.
Yep. So I believe I put that in your packet. And this is based on conversation at the January meeting, if I remember right. Help me.
Yeah.
But I put some of those, the current documents, again, we had explored that a little bit last, and then you gave us the directive, or the board did, to say, hey, can we take a look at that? What would it look like? Well, what you have in front of you there from the proposed perspective is just a start. We're looking for feedback on that. I don't know, I sent it to Mr. Fisher, Mr. Bruning, Mr. Norden have all taken a look at it. If it suffices, if it does not suffice, if there's holes there, or hey, I thought of this concept. Really at the heart of the issue is does it close potentially all the loopholes, and I'm just going to let you know this, because it's going to get exposed. You don't know it ahead of time. But to have people in your facilities after hours, when there's not a school facility or a school activity being conducted here, how do you feel about allowing parents or students and students unsupervised coming in and utilizing the facility? So the proposed concept there is kind of what first attempt that came up with in order to address what happens here, or what should happen, or how we should abide by allowing families and students to use facilities during non-school days and non-school hours. So, I'm not sure if you got any feedback on that, or again, if we read through this, is obviously, I'm not gonna sit here and read through it verbatim, but essentially it's to be called a first reading on this proposal of the policy that you see in front of you. So,
One question I had, and the way I read it, it's just grades 9 through 12 is just enrolled students by themselves.
yep.
So you can't bring a friend with you?
If they are a Parkston student,
Mm-hmm.
as the way it's written right now, yes. If they are a Tripp student or an Ethan student. Now, could they? Yeah. How? There is the acceptable use agreement form. But again, that has to be filled out by that family. So if one of the boys has a buddy from wherever, say Tripp or whatever, and they come in after hours, you have the form. You jump through that hoop. Boys are okay, coming in and doing their thing, but that's the question. Should they be allowed to bring that person from outside the system in with them. That's just, again, something to think of.
What did you do in Mount Vernon, or did you not have that issue?
No, we did. And there, that was part of the problem. Outside people, and there were probably more 10 miles to our east, you know, coming into the system. And there was always a connection there. And again, like I said, we were fortunate. We never got in a bind, or we never got in a pinch because of their behavior. But there were incidents over the years where, you know, that one particular student who brought those students with them from a different or a neighboring school, and this student probably made, and there was no activities going on, wasn't like an athlete per se, just wanted to come in and use it because we're not prohibiting, restricting them, you know, and their parent had taken the initiative to, here's the key, and then other kids from the system, probably more athlete minded, want to come in and use the facility, and words per se, or you know, derogatory or making negative comments or whatever, or off remark type of deal. I mean, it never ever really got to that point where it was serious, but you know, they would inform you of some stuff like that, and those types of kids would be like, what are they doing in our building? Well, who brought them? And they go back and look, and well, Timmy brought him. Well, what's Timmy doing there? Well, he's got every right to be in there just like you do. I mean, they jumped through that hoops, or that family jumped through that hoops. So it's something to think of.
And I guess I was thinking more along the lines of those students that are in the district but not enrolled in school. You know, homeschool. Is that, you know, I believe they can participate in sports now,
Yeah,
correct?
exactly.
Now, whether that qualifies for being enrolled or not.
Right.
And I'm just asking a question, I don't know.
Exactly. So we're talking about alternative schools. We try not to use the term homeschool anymore.
Okay.
It's alternative instruction students. So, but that's a great point, Mr. Leishner, because are those kids prohibited then? Because technically they are not enrolled in school. They are potentially participating in our extracurricular activities. Yep, for sure. They have the ability to do that. And as of right now, Mr. Leishner, I don't think we have one of those students, but doesn't mean that they won't in the
But
future.
we do have them in campus under that school,
Yes.
the alternative education school that we do have. So they are within our computer system.
But it's certainly some way to carve out some mention or notion, you know, of those kids. And I don't know, maybe it's too exclusive, you know, making sure first and foremost that the kids that are being non-supervised, or the families that are in here after hours non-school activities, that you want to serve your kids first. You want to serve your community first, right? Doesn't mean that other ones can't come along with them. And eventually, I think what you could do and add there is that if we took a different approach on that, you could put on the acceptable user agreement, that particular person is responsible for all parties that they invite into the system, you know, with them. At least there's the notion to make an attempt that you've accounted for them, and those people know that, hey, you know, and we always told our kids that. It wasn't written on paper, but you're going to bring kids in here, you better make sure that their conduct is where you want it. Otherwise, ultimately, you're going to lose the privilege. That's going to be a reflection on you. You brought them with. You say, well, I don't have any control over them. Well, if you don't, then don't bring them.
So there was discussion about younger kids being able to come with older siblings. Is that still a thought?
I certainly, if they have the acceptable use agreement, you know, the question there is.
Well, it just says 9 through 12, so I just
Yeah, but down if you
Yeah, it says younger students with a
help,
adult.
where do we see it at, guys?
have it.
Students defined.
Is student defined, yep, so that's 9 through 12, and then at the bottom,
K through
Oh.
8 must be accompanied by an adult, parent, guardian, or family member beyond school age who has a signed acceptable use contract form on file.
So
Very
they have
last
to be
sentence.
older than 18?
Keep going down, Mr. M, all the way down.
It's way at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's the
oh,
last
K,
thing.
yeah, sorry. K must be accompanied by an adult, person, or guardian, or family beyond school age who has a signed acceptable use or agreement form. So, in my opinion on that, is 18 the term, or is 18 the age at which one wants to put on that? It could be. I mean, I don't know if you want to define it by age other than, you know, an adult, parent, or family member beyond school age. Well, half the graduating class, Mr. Norton, is going to be what?
18 or 19.
19. So, but they're still here,
Mhm.
right? You know, so again,
What you were getting at, Jill, was.
I'm
you
saying
want-
like, could a sibling, like a junior bring their 5th grade brother or sister or their 4th grade sibling?
fine by me. I'm just, again, this is Picasso here. I'm just-
Mm-hmm.
If that's something you certainly want to add, we can. We can try to think of that and doctor that up a little bit and how to put some terminology
Yeah.
in there.
Maybe.
Yep,
I
so,
think that might be an okay idea, just because I can see siblings,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
What do we want to put a point at it though? Like, okay, well, juniors and seniors can bring their siblings, but
Yeah, I don't know.
well, now freshmen, all right? Are we going to include freshmen in that? So freshmen here bringing a. I mean, where do we draw the line? That's the question.
We're gonna let them draw the line and then they'll bring it back to us.
Yeah.
so is the freshman are you gonna allow him to bring the kindergarten with him?
Right.
Well, I know. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's the
and I mean, it
Right.
just.
Some
it's kinda
freshmen it would be
snowball.
fine,
Oh,
other
without a
freshmen it
doubt.
wouldn't.
No, without a doubt. I think.
I don't
I mean,
know.
I think it's something we maybe look at reserving for juniors and seniors. I mean, just a thought. I don't know. I mean,
I would say just about every freshman, I would be fine with them bringing their sibling until another person shows up.
Mhm.
And then the attention disappears from,
Yeah.
if it's just the family, not a big deal. But I think the only way you can patrol that is either none or all.
yeah.
If you sign that, then it's a family pass, or is it,
It's the
Just a
parent's
high school
responsibility at that point to decide, are you
Right.
responsible enough
because
for
you're
that?
also gonna have the parents, well, yeah, I dropped them off, I was there.
Yeah.
Those things, those are the
Mhm.
things we're gonna have, and it's not a problem until something happens.
The other thing I wondered about, when you get a membership somewhere or you sign up for something, you have some sort of walkthrough or something that tells you which doors to use. Do you know what I mean? Like, will there be something like that that's like educational, or like a handout or something that says, here's where you enter, here's the times, here's the whatever, and they have to sign it so that it's like an agreement. Like when you buy the fob to get in, you have to read through those and sign the agreement and do a walkthrough or whatever we decide that is. I just think that that's important.
I could certainly include some directive on there as far as location, point of entry, point of exit, things of that nature within the acceptable use agreement. And then certainly you encourage them, and when we could even go through that with them and say, hey, be aware. I mean, yes, you need to read this, but, make sure that you understand too that there's these other points in here as far as how you get in, where you're located. It's just like the facility is defined, and we'll try to make sure that the point of entries as far as getting into the two educational or academic systems are, not options for them to be in, but, I think we ran into a situation last night. Was it last week, Mr. Fisher, Mr. Norton? When was our last home game? Last Thursday. Right. I mean, you come in and said,
Oh, yeah.
yep, kick them out, or Mr. Fisher, I locked that.
Yeah.
I know I locked both doors, and
Yeah, I had 20 of them I kicked out of the gym.
so, I mean,
Yeah.
my point is that, the fob's gonna get you in. Are they gonna keep that, is that going to keep them out of the other parts of the facility? Because now you're talking about a key versus a fob. fob will get you into the system, and then if you stay where you're supposed to, you don't have a key. I don't know how you're going to get to this end or how you're going to get to the high school end. But either we truly forgot to lock the door or somebody took initiative and let them in there. I don't know. So, but that stuff's going to happen. I mean, and some of this stuff, guys, you know, the prohibitive aspect of things or the allowance, whichever way you want to do that, again, you'll find there are going to be all kinds of pitfalls, and we just have to address them as they come. You know, and put some clarification to it, and because they'll expose every loophole that possibly exists. That's just the nature of allowing people to use it. And well, it doesn't say that you can't do that, or it doesn't say that you can do that. You can play that game all day long. So
The other thing I wondered is, could we have some place that posted what, like on our website, maybe a link for what the schedule is so that people know when things are busy? Do you know what I mean? Is that already out there? Like, so that they know there's this practice in this gym or this practice, so they don't show up if they can't use it, I guess is what my point
For the
is.
most part, that's on the calendar.
Okay.
Practices too?
I mean, there are probably some practices that aren't on there with,
Youth wrestling practices, but like the high school
Right.
practices aren't on there. If you put that on there.
No, but I mean, in those scenarios, you could say during basketball season, or any varsity season, this is the times that
basically,
there's
yeah,
practice.
during the season, it's unavailable till 6. Or,
Yep.
You know, it's pretty, I think that's probably standard.
Yeah.
yeah, and you know, at the very beginning of it, it basically stipulates their area. Or sorry, what did I say there?
Down here it says about the sponsored and scheduled activities.
Are those that are currently enrolled during the school activity 9 to 12? It says access will be available from 6 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. 7 days a week when school is not in session. Only students whose parent have a signed acceptable use agreement on the form. But then it goes on to tell you precedents as far as scheduled activities, as to if there's any. And scheduled activities, I think we included in there that it's through your calendar,
Right.
Mr. Fisher, that they say, well, third grade basketball is not a school activity. Yeah, but they communicate with him. What you're saying, Jill, is on the schedule. It's
Yeah.
from 6 o'clock
Just so
to
you
9
can look,
o'clock
like if
tonight.
you're a family of 6 and you're gonna
Yeah.
drive 10 miles to come to town to use the basketball court, you could look to see,
Yeah.
oh, they're all
Yeah,
taken
what's
up.
in there.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's all I mean,
Yeah, that's easy enough, because I have them all on different calendars. It's just a matter of
mm-hmm,
flicking
That
to
would
make
be
sure
good,
it's
I
on
think.
this
we
one.
could have that somewhere.
Okay.
Yep, that's
Well,
very
like-
doable.
The gym floor, do they have to wear
All specific
Yeah,
shoes.
special shoes. Do we have, is there anything like that? No. Okay.
Not from what I've observed.
Just asking.
Mr.
When I grew up,
Russo,
there
want
was-
to speak to that?
There was a big issue with the gym floor.
With, yeah, like,
Irene and Mike used to talk about
yeah,
that.
with like PE and so on,
Yeah.
those kids are on it all the time. They
Okay.
walk in the morning. There's just so
And
much
they're
you
all
can do.
outside shoes.
And I guarantee you, Mr. Bruning would love to have, yep, you've got to wax it every time you get done, but it's, yeah.
I think
It's a
generally
battle,
though,
but-
people do, like if they're gonna do
Well,
basketball or
keep it clean,
play a
yeah.
sport, they're changing their shoes, so.
And that's certainly something to add as far as
If
Best-
nothing else put on there, they need to
best
be clean
practice.
shoes.
Yep, yep. No street shoes type of deal, or you have an athletic shoe to help minimize that, I guess. So, shoes.
And then as far as wrestling room goes, that was available too, correct?
Yeah, because
But we won't want people rolling mats out themselves and,
I think it has to stay in the wrestling room. If you want to clarify that.
yeah,
Is
but I
that-
mean, like, during summer, there's a lot of times where the wrestling mats aren't out,
Oh, sure.
you know what I mean?
Yep. And I think there's something there that we can certainly, during the times where maybe we're in the cleaning mold or that particular room's being addressed to that point where, stay out. Here's the reasons why.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, so. And I know you're right, because I experienced that when I first came, that nothing in that room was down, so. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can clean that up. And anything else on there that, I know that's,
I guess I just still have my general concern about safety. You know, we're gonna have, you know, physical damage and stuff, which I'm not really too concerned about, but like Mr. Norton said, you know, it's not a problem till it's a problem, so, I guess we just have to be aware of that. If something happens in that building, you know, it's gonna come back to us.
Yeah, I kind of share Matt's concern.
Yep. Yeah, that's the chairs that you guys sat in, and I've told you my story with that, and as their leader, I advocated and did everything I could to paint that picture, and I was told that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
As much as I'm in favor of making use of our facilities, there's that concern.
It is, yep. And it's always gonna be there.
Yep.
Yep. I don't have an answer for you on that.
In the form that they sign, will have something about at your own risk and your injury
Yep,
is.
Yep, for sure. You know, and I was always told that there isn't anything nothing's worth the paper that it's written on. It's not worth the paper that it's written on. Your school attorney would advise you, do not do that. I can almost guarantee you. Because I've vetted that. I've been down that road. Your school attorney says, don't do this. Yep, we're doing it. So, yeah, again, back to that accountability aspect, Mr. Leichner, is that what kind of position does that put you in, right? You know, so you can have every description on there on the acceptable use agreement, you know, use at your own risk, play at your own risk, blah, 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 and, you know, not responsible for whatever. Is that going to be enough? You know, there's a notion there that the people that are in there and engaged in it and the utilization of it, they're not probably the people that are going to come back and start pointing fingers if something did happen. I mean, they want to have the opportunity to be in it, and I don't believe that they're going to cut their nose off to spite their face and say, it's your fault because you let me in there. You know, you signed this agreement, you agreed to do this, and now something drastic happened or something dramatic happened, and then they're gonna come back and say, well, that's really on you guys. You should have never let me in there in the first place. You know, so, I don't know, that's just a different perspective on that. I don't know, it probably doesn't hold water or doesn't have any merit, but I suspect the people that, you know, one thing that you haven't addressed, and I'm just curious, are you comfortable with the uncomfortable with the deposit?
I think that's.
I'm fine with that.
I think that's
Yeah.
plenty to where it'll,
Mhm.
I mean, people will take it serious.
Yeah.
And it should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
gonna
mean,
make you
Yeah,
stand
you don't
up
want to
and-
make it too easy to get it, because then
Right.
they'll lose it and it'll be
Yeah.
left and right. And
I don't wanna make it cost prohibitive. I mean, that's just a number
No,
that
I think that's
I
fair.
came up with.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's right or it's wrong, I just put it in there. And some people could make the argument, well, I can't afford that.
One thing I had written down here was to maybe do a yearly, make sure you still got your fob type deal,
Mhm.
just maybe whoever in charge of that, just bring it and check it in once a year, just to make sure it's not
Sure.
floating around.
I think that's something, Tony, we could probably do within the system itself, is just plain deactivate them.
You can deactivate them.
June 30th, they get deactivated. July 1st, if you want to be reactivated, you gotta stop in at the school or whatever, pick a day.
That's a good idea.
That's really
That way, if they don't bring them back, they still don't work. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah, well, that's what the pops you're talking about.
472. I don't think it'll be that many. Okay. Is that enough changes for now?
I'm okay, you guys,
Anybody
this is
have any
exactly what I
other
was hoping
thoughts?
for, guys. You guys have obviously read it, you thought about these things, so it's good, it's all good feedback. We'll craft them and try to include the concerns there and put it in a format and then bring it back. You know, if you're okay with what's on there right now, we'll.
So we'll relook at it
Yep.
next month?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think the process there is actually has to have 2 full readings, and it doesn't even get approved until the 3rd. So you're looking at April before it even becomes.
Okay.
possibility, so.
All right, we'll move on to discussion item B is school board appreciation.
Yeah, real quick, I know you don't want to do this, whatever, but we're gonna take a little 2 minutes, okay? Because you're in a position, even though we say it's an elected position, you're in public office, and all of you have made a decision to do that, and from my understanding, the conversations that I've had with you guys, everybody recounted the fact, why do you do this? When I asked you that, was to serve kids. It's within the best interest of the kids. That's why I do what I do. Nobody has a hidden agenda. You don't have, things there that you got issues with or an axe to grind. And that's really what makes, in my opinion, all the years of doing this, makes a board work. Obviously, there's concerns. You listen to your constituents, use Mr. Fossum, just like tonight, thank you for being here when he left.
Just like.
Thank you for being here in situation. That's what it's about, So we just want to recognize you because next week is National School Board Appreciation Month, or it's a month, but there's a week that they do that, and that actually happens next week. So our board meeting's tonight. So, I didn't laminate it, and I don't expect you to put it in a frame. But take it for whatever it's worth. You can do whatever you want with it. But we also have a gift of appreciation from admin and us in the office to everybody give you can have a sandwich. You get paid a lot to do this. You get rich out of doing this, and a lot of the sacrifices that you guys make and the phone calls that you have to listen to. So we just wanted to take that moment to say thank you and a token of appreciation. So
Thank you.
yep, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Mr. Kroll, I don't know. Sorry if you don't like Subway.
Who doesn't like
I've never met a
Subway?
sandwich I didn't like.
Everybody likes Subway.
Mr. Joe Phil.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for
Thank you.
for serving. Look forward to it moving forward. So, okay, that's all we got for that.
All right. So we'll move to action items. A is HVAC and lighting project.
Thank you for being patient, Mr. DeWitt. So, we'll put you on the hot seat and little updates here, and I kind of informed them some of the things that you and I talked about, so I'll turn it over to you, so.
That's why I'm here. We had a pre-bid on the 3rd. We had 5 electricians, 2 plumbers, no HVAC contractors. When we put the documents together, we postponed or pushed back the advertisement date from the 10th and 17th to the 17th and 23rd, and inadvertently the bid date got changed to the 17th. That's why we don't have bids tonight, and we have to have a special meeting next week.
23rd.
I apologize for that. Secondly, in the in the lighting contract, the estimate for the ceiling work was actually in, you remember there was a long list, and then there was a estimate for general contract, chiller, air handlers. It was a lot bigger number. The ceiling work was in that number, and it didn't get put in to the LED package, so the LED estimate doesn't have the ceiling work in it. What we have though in the bid package is an alternate, so we'll know what the lighting package is and what the ceiling work is. So where that comes, we'll make that decision, I guess. The ceiling work is going to be more than the lighting package. I talked to some architects. It's a big number, or it's a large number. $4 a square foot I got from one architect, the other one said $8.50 a square foot. That's the range that we're seeing in estimating.
That's close.
Yes. And we're talking about 85 to 90,000 square feet, so that's a large number. The good thing is if the lighting package comes in favorable, we can just do the lighting. We don't have to do any of the ceiling work. The other thing, since we didn't have HVAC contractors, I kind of followed up with local, guys that work out in this area, the Beatty Forces, the Karen Blaines of the world. The only HVAC contractor that I know of is Teshier's, and I think they're kind of on the fence to be even bid the HVAC side of this project. We had a bid letting today in Lennox for an HVAC retrofit, 0 bids. They are full
In Lennox,
in Lennox.
which is 30 miles down the road
Yes.
from Sioux Falls.
I did reach out to two contractors, the Beatty and Career Blaine, and I've also talked to Mr. Manican about extending the completion date to next August. I got reassurances from Beatty and Career Blaine that they would bid the project if it got extended. So the money is available that long. So
When you say next August, you mean 2023?
2023. What I would do, if that's what the board wants to do, is we'd put out an addendum, extend that date, and then we would put in verbiage for phasing, hours of work, or when work can be done. Some of this work can be done through the winter, like, if air conditioning, like the gyms and stuff, some of that stuff can be done through the winter to help alleviate some of the labor shortages that are out there right now. These companies are big enough, but they can't find help.
You and I, Dan, talked about lead times on the actual equipment in and of itself, the AC unit versus the HVA or the univentilator unit.
The unit ventilators, Train Company, which is typically the ones that are in here, unit ventilators have a real good ship time, 6 to 8 weeks. Condensing units that go with them, 18. Right now, some equipment is like small rooftops are getting pushed out to 40 weeks. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Heat pumps, unitary heat pumps, 52 weeks. So the industry is absolutely struggling to keep up with how many projects there are across the country. It's just phenomenal.
We're not the only school district considering the utilization of ESSER dollars, whether it's 2, 3, to take this approach. They allowed that within the rules coming out from the feds as far as what is an allowable expense, of the dollars. And again, I know, talking to several of the guys that are in the chair, they're doing similar projects. And then I'm not saying that that's, we're a victim of that, but those people, then it's the industry part of it, it's the business part of it. I mean, everything else on top of what those people do in those companies or those vendors on a normal year's business, and then you throw all this at them too, and then whatever you want to say about the supply chain, metal, cooling parts,
It's parts. It's parts.
Yeah.
It's the circuit boards. It's the guts of the unit ventilator is kind of a dumb piece of equipment, where a condensing unit's got some brains in it. So
Would there be any benefit to pushing the whole thing off until the summer of 2023, or?
I think there's benefit to bidding it now. I mean,
Well, I meant bid it now.
yes, I would bid it now, and the majority of work is probably going to happen next summer. Just because that's how busy the contractors are.
Is that something we decide afterwards, Damon? Let's say we open the bids a week from we open bids Thursday.
Right.
We take a look at them on the 23rd, coming up with a plan of attack. And I think you and I talked about that on that 17th, we would sit down and put a a proposal together for the board, so to speak. Okay, here's how we think we should proceed with this, but any work this summer, when we have to have that conversation, I guess, without knowing what those bid numbers are, or if we even get a bid number on the HVAC side of it. We talked about doing things in phases too. I don't know if that is in the actual addendum, wording in the addendum, how it's worded in order to attract some of those HVAC vendors and getting them to take a hard run at it and say, hey, yeah, you know what, we'll throw a number at it, but only with the stipulation that, we're not doing anything this summer, it's going to be the next.
Correct. I mean, the addendum is going to give the contractors leeway for phasing.
Okay.
How much work they want to get done this summer,
Okay.
but they have to have it all done next summer.
Okay.
Essentially, the completion date it shifts to August of '23. They are going to, once they are successful, they are going to order their equipment because they are getting weekly price increases on equipment. These equipment manufacturers won't even hold the numbers for 30 days. It's the craziest thing we've ever seen.
Mr. McKinnon,
Yes, sir.
is there a deadline for us on when the money has to be spent?
So by December of 2024, we have to have submitted everything back within our grants management system in order to get reimbursed for it. So the dollars have to have gone out by December of 2024 in order to meet the federal guideline on that. So
One of the good things that you're sitting in is you do have air conditioning.
yeah,
It's you're probably going to have some maintenance and that type of thing to go along, throughout the year. But you got that now anyway. But so I would strongly suggest we add that additional year because otherwise, I think we won't have a board meeting on the 23rd. I don't think we'll have a bid.
yeah.
It's just.
Is the electrical the same? I mean, we're probably going to have a bid on that, I think, for sure.
I think what this would do is it'll get your smaller electrical contractors' ears perked up way more because that was quite a bit of work for the smaller guys, probably not for Muth or for electric construction, but for your local guys that were here, I think that gives them ample time to say, hey, we're going to get the high school done 2022, and we're going to do everything else in 23.
Sure.
So I think that helps you considerably.
So the flexibility is really going to open the door for some of those vendors to take a different look at it. So
right, it's going to help. That they get more aggressive rather than, okay, if I'm going to do the project, I'm going to make this type attitude. So, other than that, I guess that's the reason I was here. I guess I just wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable and it's not a choice that we like to do, but I think it's necessary.
So do we need a motion to approve that?
Yeah, actually, you probably don't. I can just put it right in the addendum.
Just on record, and it's
Okay.
nothing that really have to do with you, Damon, other than you guys making the
Sure.
stipulation here
Okay.
through a board motion that basically giving ACE the permission to add an addendum to the project for an extension on the time frame of completion of the project is really what it amounts to. So
Do the companies that would be doing different projects here understand that if they did stretch it out to 2023, that whatever they did do, it would be done, portions of it, so that we could operate the school?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I'll write the addendum that the work that they do cannot interfere with.
Or be completed,
Yeah.
on whatever phase they're doing?
Correct. That the work that they do in 22 has to be done in August of 22.
Okay.
There probably will be some large pay requests in 22 because they're going to, like I said, they're going to.
they want the equipment.
They're going to order their equipment. no one believes that this is gonna come down in price.
No.
So,
And access to the money, again, Craig and I talked about that that's not like a huge red flag, because the money is there. You have to understand though, you as a district have to expend your own money first, and we have the resources within your general fund and your capital outlay to do that, and then turn around and resubmit it in order to get the money back from through the grants management system. It goes from the feds to the state to us. So you have to spend it to get it. So if there are some of these larger pay requests, we'll be okay with that.
And we get those incrementally as they're submitted, not
Yep.
one big lump at the end.
Yep, nope, they come as you put them in the system.
your pay requests, the first ones are probably, mobilization and shop drawings and ordering equipment is usually like 5% of the contracts. And your equipment can be close to 50% of the contracts. So when that shows up, we probably will require them to store it in a bonded warehouse, insured warehouse, because the school is not going to store 52 unit ventilators for a contractor for a year.
Right. I don't know where we'd put them.
Get another Conex
Yeah,
box.
that's what I say.
Get another Conex box.
Yeah. We made a couple.
Okay.
Would that be if they had containers that were watertight, would you be able to stage storage containers? If I got asked the question, I'm just saying.
I don't see a huge issue with that as far as a footprint in order to find a space to do that. I don't, you guys give me, I don't see that as being an issue. I think I can find a spot for them. Unless you guys got reservations of them.
Well, it's temporary. The
Yeah, the
project.
sooner we can get it on site, the better.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve Ace Incorporated to add an addendum to the contract to have a finish date in August of 2023. Is that correct?
Yep. So moved.
Moved by Leishner, second by
I'll second.
Kroll. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. DeWitt.
Thank you.
for being
For
here.
coming.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Safe trip home.
And hopefully we'll see you all on the 23rd, and I'll see you on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday, 2 o'clock.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to action
Mr.
item.
McKinnon, is
Yes,
it
sir.
worthwhile if I'm available to come on Thursday?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of you that actually sit on the bid committee. I don't remember who that is off the top of my head, but I'll certainly vet that with Craig, and
Okay.
you guys are invited, absolutely. Just can't have all of you, because we didn't advertise that as a board meeting. So,
I won't be there.
yeah. So whatever two wanted to show up, as long as it's not 3, because then you're acting as a board. So, yep, 2 o'clock here on Thursday. So.
All right, action item B is safe return to school plan.
I put that, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but it was in your packet. If you saw the blue portion of that, that was based on decisions from the 5-day. Our COVID numbers right now, I reported last week, we had 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. All across the board, close contacts and positive cases. So what that is included in your safe return plan, in the blue section there is the practice that we as administrators took the initiative, to had some conversations, let you know what we decided there for you in a lack of direction at that point, but I would just make a motion to approve the changes to the safe return to school plan as written. So,
To approve safe return.
unless you
plan
had
with
questions, sorry.
clarifications.
No.
No,
So moved.
I think we're good.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Weber, second by Schoenfelder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, safe, item C is discuss sanctioning girls softball. That was hard to say back to back.
We put some information in your packet about that, and hopefully got a chance to look at that. Kind of the stipulation as to how that case association was looking to do that. I know I put Mr. Fisher's statement in there as to, and I know him and Norden had a more formal meeting with all those girls, put a little bit of a roster in there, as to what kind of commitment those kids were willing to make. So I kind of, not my deal, so I'll let either Mr. Fisher or Mr. Norden answer any questions or speak to it one way or the other as far as whether we should or we shouldn't, so.
Well, I can just start it out. I mean, Mr. Norton and myself met with all of the girls grades 11 through 6 and just talked to them about what the process would look like and then asked for...
I don't know if they can hear good when you sit all the way back there and talk. I don't know. Can they? I don't know. I have no idea. I've never watched one, so I don't. I'm at them, so I don't watch them. Thank
so
you.
We had a meeting with all the girls, grades 11 through 6, and just kind of laid it out there of what the process would entail. So we didn't know who a coach would be or any of that, but we would have softball in the spring, ask for interest, and we had 14 girls that were, 13 that were definite and 1 maybe. So 14 total girls from our group that came and signed up on our list, which was down a little bit from our initial kind of polling that we did by 4 girls, I think. But of that list, then we had 4 11th graders, 1 sophomore, 4 9th graders, 1 8th grader, 1 7th grader, and 3 6th graders. So, I mean, I don't think we have enough as is to start a team. I mean, it doesn't seem to me that we would. I guess that's what we kind of talked about.
What do you think, Adam, that we need to support a team, numbers-wise?
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think depending on if we're going to do I think we'd want to have, Mr. Mifflin?
Is it total numbers, you think, Mr. Fisher or Mr. Norton? Is it more about grade levels in which we're talking about?
I think that's the biggest thing.
From a competitive perspective.
Right.
It would have to be both, because 13 juniors and seniors would be enough for a team.
Correct.
But in 2 years, we wouldn't have anybody. So I think you have to see both sides of it, and you would want the majority, at least half to be sophomore or freshman, sophomore, juniors. I would guess, and by half I mean I would think 18 would be a round number if 9 of them were in that top 3 age bracket.
So is there...
And then to have enough to be able to come back through or have a JV squad even. Because right here, we wouldn't even have a JV squad.
That's what I was going to ask. Could you play JV instead of varsity that way? That you only have, if you don't have enough older girls to be competitive at a varsity level, can you just have a JV team?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, because that's how a lot of programs I know start up when they're a brand new school.
Yeah.
We'll start that way, playing a...
Yeah, the only problem I see with that is since this is brand new for everybody,
Right.
Who's going to have a JV team? A lot of them are only going to have 15 girls. Or whatever. I mean, that's just the reality.
Schools our size for sure.
Yeah.
Or even small.
So...
Okay.
I don't know, who, did you send out that sheet from the Activity Association, or was that showed the funding portion of it?
Yeah, I forwarded that to Mr. McKinnon, yep.
Is that similar for gymnastics too? That's similar funding requirement?
That's a good question. Mr. McKinnon and I were discussing that. I think there's some interesting wording within that might kind of have us relook at some things, potentially.
That was by design, I think, to at least take a look at it. Mr. Fisher and I have had the discussion about what is actually stipulated in that first approach, how you're going to do it, the 5-year transition, or if you're going to do this, then here's the expectations by the Activity Association. I visited with Craig about that notion too, and we didn't really come up with any grandiose resolution or thought process on that, other than I think at the time where the program was started many years ago, while it stipulates in there that they really don't care where the dollars are coming from, but the fact that if you are going to sponsor that sport, then the regulation of that sport in all facets of it should fall under the auspices of the school board or the school. district. So I think it's something we certainly have to take a look at. So it's a great point, you know, that you bring up. Are we, you know, marching in step with what their expectations are currently within our gymnastics program? You know, I think we need to vet that a little bit further among the admin and you know, have some conversations about that. But, you know, it's the club aspect, which there is club softball, currently exists.
Not in school.
You don't have it, but it's
Okay.
out. But it's out there, right? Parkston does not have club softball like you have club baseball. But now it's becoming a sanctioned sport. So those people that are in club settings have those club affiliations. If you're going to sponsor it as a school board, bringing that whole control from the monetary perspective, accountability perspective, has to be done under those, recommending that it be done under the auspices that they've laid out in that document. Again, you want to charge kids to play softball, you want to do fundraising, you want to do gate receipts, whatever, they don't care. But
the
I
school
think
should control the funds.
we've taken a step, I believe, especially in the gymnastics program, to, I think it started out, they had their own checkbook. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Now it's within our, just like every other coach, that we're overseeing it. So every month we check their statements just like we do with all of our other coaches.
But
that's the only oversight we have right
are
now.
checks being signed by Parks and School District to say we're gonna enter the Wagner meet?
We see that on their account. I mean, we see that come out of
On
there.
their
but-
account.
On their account.
But it's not, the check's not coming from the Parks and School District. So I think we have to vet that a little bit more. So I appreciate you bringing that to light.
And I'm not sure how that was discussed
Well,
when.
that's what I guess that was my question.
Yeah.
Is this something new? Is
Right.
this,
I don't know, and I can't speak to that of what
Yeah.
it was when gymnastics came out like that. I don't know.
History lesson. Yeah, no, very briefly, the majority of the board, we had different schools. The cost was, if we were talking mats,
The equipment.
uniforms, mileage, it was, because then they thought, well, if that's the case, then where else are we going with sports? So that's a very brief.
And they said that's great. We don't want any funds from the school, we just want the support and the need, is basically all they were asking when it first came in.
Complexity is in order to be recognized at the activity association level, you submitted, not you, there was an application for the program submitted to the Activities Association. So all schools had to do that. So if it was PEH in its original application, Ethan had to submit one, Hanson had to submit one, Parson had to submit one. And when I was in Mount Vernon, when I reached out to these three school leaders about inquiring as to whether they would be opposed or be acceptable to Mount Vernon coming on board, we had to do it all over. I had to submit one. They had to turn around, all three schools had to resubmit it again because we were creating and adding another entity within that cooperative agreement. And they all agreed to do it, and they did it. And when you do that, what hasn't transpired in this school, I don't know about the other ones, I can't speak for them, is what is outlined in that accountability point of the form that's in your packet. Because it's not under the auspices of the Parks and School District.
I think the other thing was at the time, and things change, but I think we all also talked about as a board about what if this goes into tennis?
Yeah.
Or where do you stop? Because you only need maybe one person that wants to do tennis. Just as in gymnastics, we don't have 10 people. It's maybe 1 or 2. So, I mean, it's a board decision. And so where do you want to stop or where you don't want to stop?
I know we digressed there a little bit, but, back to the sanctioning of softball. I think our bigger concern of visiting us 3 that are here is, do we want to offer a sport, varsity sport, where over half the team is going to be 7th, 8th graders and 9th graders competing against schools that, and some of them could be like us, I get that, but I suspect there are probably more upperclassmen on those, a 9-person roster that, what kind of experience are we creating there? I mean,
And I think a lot of the schools in our area, like around us, are kind of in that same boat, where there's a lot of maybes. No, that was last month when I was checking with them, but everybody was kind of like, I don't know if we really want to commit to this yet. So I don't know what's going to come out of it from the other schools, but those are the emails that were going around.
And maybe we as a school board have to reassess that on gymnastics, or reassess that on other sports.
I think the other thing we talked about is what happens if another school comes to us and says, well, now we're willing to come together to do something. That's a whole different deal, but as PHS for itself.
That's what I was going to ask. Are there other schools that we engage other schools for track or for, whatever? I mean, if there's, 13 definites, it's like, man, if I was one of those girls and wanted to play, could we ask other schools if they're interested in going together?
Somebody has to be the lead dog, right? I mean, somebody has to take some initiative.
I mean, we're already with Ethan on some other things. Maybe they would have some girls who would be interested. I mean, 13's definitely big enough for a team. I get the age piece. But if you had 6 other girls from Ethan that were, 3 of them are older and 3 of them are younger, you would have enough girls.
Yep. Agree. I agree.
Would we ever, are we open? Is anybody open to that, or?
Mr. Fisher, do you know of other schools that are for sure going ahead with softball in our class?
Well, more of like around that Sioux Falls area.
Sure.
A lot of them are going with it. I heard Freeman was maybe going to, but things have kind of changed.
Maybe Scotland.
I heard Tyndall was pretty serious about it. Yeah.
Avon, I think, was heavy on it. So.
Yeah.
Wagner, I think, was going to they felt maybe forced into it.
Right. They didn't think this first year, but they thought down the road, like in year 2 or 3, they would be.
And so we would also have that option if we don't do it this time around.
Yeah, you could do it whenever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people have said Ethan would make sense. That people from Ethan come play in the summer with us and stuff. I mean,
I don't know, maybe we could just ask and see what they, I don't feel like I want to, at least give the girls who want to play a chance to.
My only concern is how far would we be traveling?
Yeah, I know, I thought about that too.
I mean, if we're having to drive all the way to Sioux Falls or...
Argument being, football, we end up going Winter, Gregory.
Well, and Lennox isn't that far. Parker's not that far.
Lennox, Parker, Tri-Valley.
I'm sure those people will have it. A team we go that far for basketball. So.
Right. Yeah. Basketball, volleyball. That's kind of where we're traveling now.
So then when baseball gets sanctioned or whatever, we're gonna do the same thing for baseball. I'm just
same conversation.
Yep.
We're here to give a little insight on baseball.
I don't know.
I don't know that you'll ever have to do that because those powers to be that are in the club aspect,
they don't want to give it up.
They don't want to be told what to do, and they've made that very clear that they don't want to play with the Activities Association.
Well, that's just an example.
Absolutely.
It is a good thought, though. Yeah, you're right.
So I think at any, what if it's lacrosse? You as a school board, I think it's us as administrators. I mean, we owe it to the process and to the public and to the kids to at least vet it, have the conversation, and do due diligence with it, like I think we've done as far as getting numbers, and go from there.
Would these students still be able to go out for track if they chose to?
I mean, that would be up for like the coaches, to everything else we do, I think we kind of allow for that and try to as much as possible.
I just wondered if
You know?
it would, I guess we don't know really what the schedule would be, so it'd be hard to
Right.
know, yeah.
I don't know if they'd be evening games
Yeah.
or how that would be.
Yeah.
So, tomorrow morning, I have to send this off,
Yeah.
and it says, we plan to participate as school-sponsored softball team, 22-23. We plan to participate as a school board-approved transition team in the spring of 22-23. And that goes back to that document that we were just talking about, where our school will not be participating at this time. Now, because if you say will not, in a month or 2 months down the road, something transpires, and if you give us the directive to have a conversation with Ethan and see where we can put a joint cooperative agreement together, is the activity association going to say no? No. They'll bend over backwards to make sure it's acknowledged, and you're in it, and you're in region 2, and here's the other teams that are in your region, and then we start building the schedule. So I think it doesn't, while it says will not, I don't know that we're like truly closing doors to the point where, oh my God, we can't do it anymore. So
So what you're telling us is we should do will not, and then we can change it. I feel like that's really kind of strong
What I'm
choice.
telling you
That's
right now, without Ethan or somebody,
Yeah.
we are well not,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your feel for what your direction was. I know you don't want to tell us what to do, but
I don't know that you can answer, we will participate
Yeah.
school sponsored, and I don't know that you can answer, we will participate transition. I don't, because you're just not there yet. So
Yeah.
I think your only option is to say we will not, and then I can even put on here, working on potential cooperative, and we may be back.
I just asked Mr. Fisher, and I haven't heard
Sorry.
of any other schools talking about a co-op. I mean, they're all talking about a co-op, but anybody putting in it as a co-op.
Yeah.
So,
'Cause like
and I
Platt said
guarantee you,
they
there's
would
gonna
want-
be people that are gonna co-op.
Yeah.
It might be even Mitchell to Mitchell Christian, but
Right.
there's gonna be something there. So obviously, they would have to
Okay.
recognize those as they come along.
Okay.
So then reach out to Ethan and check with them.
Yeah, just see what they have enough interest or.
Okay.
We
So-
limit it to them, or are we knocking on every 20-mile radius door, or 30-mile radius door?
I mean, we already co-op with them.
That's fine.
so
Yeah, I think
I'm just
it's
asking.
If you start knocking
confusing
on
if you
doors,
have too
then
many
you get a
different
little.
combinations of co-ops in my opinion, but.
What's that, Matt?
So it just gets confusing if you have too many different combinations of co-ops.
Yep. Okay.
But we also co-op with someone in wrestling, right?
Ethan.
Ethan.
But is the Hanson at some point, were they coming and going, or?
That is a practice
Practice
co-op.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's only just basically to use
Oh,
our facilities.
That is very
It's a
specific.
different beast.
Okay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to be different.
It's a very interesting.
So I
thing.
have the motion to delay sanctioning a softball program at Parks and High School. Does that work?
Yep.
All
Need a
right.
motion to approve.
Moved by Schoenfelder,
Second.
second by Weber. All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Oops, sorry.
Thank you.
Do you guys have a number of what you think that we'd want from Ethan? I mean, you know, if they say, well, we have 6 girls and they're all juniors and sophomores, or is it just kind of, you want me to just get some numbers and report back?
I mean, even if you took the top 9, you know, they're all high schoolers.
Mhm.
So if they even had 3 more, I feel like 9 to 12. To me, that fits the bill. You know, and then you have the younger ones, you can build a team and pull, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, our younger girls are
Yeah.
pretty solid numbers.
I don't know, I guess I would say anywhere between 3 to 5, maybe older girls would make, I don't know, what do you guys think? You agree, or?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we could get 3 to 5 older girls and then some mismatch,
Yeah.
younger
Because I mean,
kids.
even an 8th grader, if you have a decent sized 8th grader, they can, a lot of 8th graders play varsity sports, I don't know, so,
It'd be worth at least ponder, at least
Yeah.
having conversation at that point.
Sounds good. Okay.
thank you.
Yes.
All right,
So I just got a point here. So if we're thinking about this with softball, are we gonna re-talk about the gymnastic program?
I can if you would like to have that conversation
I
based,
would.
based
I
on
would.
that
I
document
mean,
as
if
far
we're
as,
gonna do the softball thing and thinking about co-oping, then it brings it back to gymnastics, in my opinion.
and I think that's nothing more than some clarification, Mr. Prohl, and some conversation, and then reaching out to that particular, those powers to be that are in
Right.
charge of that program and say, hey, we have to maybe change some things up here and not getting in your business because, you know, you didn't want us in the first place. Now you're telling us, well, in order to abide by
Sure.
what the South Dakota Activity Association says how we should be doing this, this is how it's going to have to be. So,
Yep, I get that.
yep, I agree. And so that's something we can certainly bring back.
Okay.
So we'll put that on the next
Yeah.
agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
I can do that.
Okay. Item D is discuss RFP for architect engineering services.
Right. So I've included in your packet there, this is a template that I reached out to a friend of mine, or an ex-colleague, former colleague, not an ex-colleague, but a former colleague, and had some experience with going through an RFP. We talked about this a little bit before, expanding our footprint. Now, knowing that Mr. DeWitt just walked out of here and told us what the industry is, entailing right now, it's a little disheartening. But questions on, and I didn't, guys, this is not my creation. I'm not taking any credit for it other than the project description. I mean, I cut and pasted, cleaned it up, put our names in there as far as the Parks and School District as to what it should look like. Essentially, the process would be this. If we want to go put out an RFP, I would reach out to that particular colleague of mine and say, okay, how does this go? Is that something we have to put an ad in the paper, which I suspect we do, but what I envision is reaching out to 4, 5, 6 different architect firms, engineering firms. All they have to do is look up an email for them and send it to them in this document. They'll look at it like, oh yeah, okay. And then if they'll call if they have questions and they want to submit something, the dates are, fictitious on here. If I remember, I put dates. I can't remember if there's dates in here. Yeah, I put Friday, March 4th. I just put stuff in there.
So there's no system like the contractors would.
Not, from an RFP per se, where that goes on an exchange, that vendor exchange. That's why I have to call and ask Matt, because I don't know that for 100%.
Okay.
Very well could. That if I submitted that, who I would have to get a hold to submit it to that exchange, so those people that are in that industry would be able to get back. But if worst case scenario, it doesn't exist, I have that list on my desk generated of somewhere between 5, 6 different 7 architect firms that I have some familiarity with, and Craig does too, and Eric probably, maybe not. These people come to our state conventions, they set up booths, they want to, you talk to them all the time, they want to engage you, and I know probably some of those people that are in those settings where, hey, I'm emailing you this is what I'm looking for, and then they'd give us some feedback. If it's something that you want to do. It was more about the project description is honestly my only creation. So the rest of it is jargon. I don't know if we have anything to change there other than, does that describe what you want to do? What we were talking about. I don't know if it does or not. I did ask him, I said, would that suffice? I mean, would that get somebody's attention? He said, oh, absolutely. He said, what you have there is spot on. He said, if that's what you want to do, but he said, your verbiage in there is very explanatory, so.
March 4th is a long enough time frame, or?
I spitballed, I don't know. So the only reason why I took a look at that, I believe it was a Friday, 5, 6, Monday is the 7th, that's the first Monday of your month, and then the 14th is your second Monday of your month, so it's 14th would be your board meeting. So if you wanted to wait even another month, you could do that. If you got enough on your plate, or we didn't want to push this out maybe until March sometimes, because you're essentially looking at 2.5 weeks. If I push this out, get a hold of that guy, if there's no exchange, email all these people, these companies, and let them know that we're in the market, or you're looking for it, they would start
So
getting that information back to us.
this March 4th, well, your example, the March 4th date would basically just be them submitting their resume, basically. It wouldn't really be much, so any basic
Plans or
designs at all.
No, yep. No,
So then
it's-
we would pick them based off of that to then give us a plan.
Right.
To build the plan.
So it's their proposal based on what kind of information they could provide to you. So if you look at the second part of it, services shall include, this is what you're looking for. We want somebody to help us with site planning, programming, services, concept of development, communication with staff stakeholders, accurate estimates, comprehensive design services, build documents, contract administration. And the proposal should contain this, an executive summary highlighting your knowledge of the project, why your firm's qualified, relevant project experience, so what have you done similarly, type and scale, provide an organizational chart in your organization, includes team members, how that flows in your organization, describe your firm's design management approach, whether that's, design build or, design and bid after. I mean, there's several different components there. Provide 3 client references and include a schedule highlighted. You get all that information, they put it in a packet, comes by March 4th. You can, at the March 14th meeting, look at those documents and then refine it. Say you had 6 people submit something, then say, hey, and I did put in here, I don't care. I mean, maximum 3, you want to do 2, you want to do 4, you want to do 5, it makes no difference to me. On the very last page, a maximum of 3 firms will be selected to present qualifications to the board. So if you had 7, you narrowed it down. We want to talk to you 3. Then you have a board meeting, schedule times where the first guy comes in, he's got a half hour, next guy comes in, he's got a half hour, next guy comes in, he's got a half hour. You listen to their spiel and then you make a decision moving forward. I don't want to work with any of them, or let's go with that firm. So that's essentially the process that would it involve.
So they tell us their fee at that point in time on these interviews?
Say again, Jim.
They're gonna charge us the fee for doing this? They would let us know?
Certainly within their package, this is what we charge in order to those things that we already talked about, site planning, programming, services,
Yep.
Yep. To get up to this
Talking
point,
about to do the proposal is what you're talking about, the fee to do the proposal, yeah.
so them submitting something costs nothing.
Right, no, I understand that.
Yeah, but this is what our services, so like, it's public knowledge, Mr. DeWitt, that firm, that was what they assessed you guys, and you're in a contract with to about, what, $75,000 for the development of those 2 RFP, or those 2 projects? Yeah, so they would certainly make that clear. Now, I don't know how clear it could be, because they really don't know
Right.
all the particulars of it, right? But they should give you a fairly ballpark idea, and not like this wide, but it's gonna be somewhere in this range, so my question to you guys is, how do you feel about it, if that describes it, or do you want to move forward with it? Do you want me to get a hold of those guys, see what I can do to solicit some ideas on this, or do you want to breathe a little bit and then, visit it again in the March meeting, or I'm just looking for direction from you guys, so.
I think the description is fairly accurate.
Yeah, I think it's what we talked about. I mean,
And certainly that doesn't bind you to anything, but I
Right.
mean, it's.
One thought I had, to maybe make it a little bit more palatable for
Sure.
the community and for me maybe, but we've had the daycare discussion in the past, and I know that's not feasible for the school. But I don't know if not necessarily maybe in this design, but would we be able to utilize the school better for maybe like an after-school type program? Is that something we could maybe just keep in our minds to maybe even just do some research or some checking to see if that would be feasible, because I know that situation's not getting any better, and if we could, if this could be another
Utilization of that space.
Yeah.
So, ask clarification, Matt, are we talking daycare? Are we talking
No.
after school? Or are we
After
talking
school.
combination thereof?
No daycare.
Okay, so.
school age, right, is what
Yes.
you're saying, school age kids till what, 5 or so,
Right.
till
Yes.
parent?
Yes.
can pick them up.
For a
It's
very
like
minimal
daycare,
thing.
but for school-aged kids.
Right, a very
Yeah.
minimal thing, but I think two parents, I think would make a huge difference. But I know the problem we've had in the past, not doing it, facilities after school, especially in the winter. There's, I mean, the last thing you want to do is put the kids in a schoolroom for 2 hours. I mean, they're going to have to have some place to at least burn some energy off for 30, 45 minutes. You know, maybe get a snack, do some homework, and it's 5 o'clock.
Right.
Just a thought. I mean, just, you know, it's a great. I mean, it's a great. I know it will get used, and I know it would be a great thing. I mean, just having gone through junior high sports, it's a nightmare having junior high kids in sports and getting them here at 6 o'clock. And I know it would be a great benefit, just whether it's if it's a need or if it's a want, I guess. But so.
Do you have feedback, Adam? You have any thoughts about that?
Oh, wait a minute.
Just being on the elementary end, knowing, do you have anybody
I
talk
couldn't hear it all.
about after school?
Yeah.
An after-school program, utilizing the extra building that we're talking about building, utilizing that in a way that maybe having a more robust, having an after-school program for students and utilizing that space for that is what he was saying.
I think it's something that we've talked about, Mr. McKinnon and admin meetings and stuff. I think the big thing that we have to do with that is just kind of get people interested in helping support that, meaning like teachers,
Staffing.
to stay after and want that. And I mean, there are ways to do that, and like we've talked about, you know, if we have some of that ESSER money that we can use to kind of close the gaps on some of those things, or is it strictly just like after school hangout? Are we just trying to build relationships, you know, take care of kids? So I think it depends on how you look at it.
Do you see this space, sorry Adam, do you see this space fitting in as, I think what Matt's suggesting is that it's another layer of the utilization of this space, making it more robust, so, you know, the comment wouldn't come from the public, well, there you get, and one more thing athletically, right? Where, you know,
The new space we're talking about?
yeah, you know, the new space, we're carving out some opportunities for, if ever there was a more robust after-school program, especially like during the winter time, you know, when it is cold outside, letting those kids go burn that energy, you know, in there. Is it designed, we have to keep, I think, the notion of keeping it in mind when we're designing it, that if that's another element that we want to add to that, because the first thing I thought of when you said that, Matt, was, okay, but if we were going to use it for after school for those junior high practices, so you don't have to get up at 5 o'clock and get them here by 6, okay, how much space is in there to throw, you know, 20, 25 little shysters in there and let them burn off some energy while there's another activity going on, you know, at the same time. Certainly, I'm not saying it's right, wrong, in any stretch, but it's keeping that notion in mind.
Yeah,
in the
I definitely think there are opportunities for that. I really do. I mean, I have actually thought a lot about that as far as, you know, when I think about during our basketball games right now, we were just talking, you know, there are 20 or 30 kids running around. If we have somebody to organize or supervise some gym time in that off gym while a varsity event's going on, why not? Same thing, kids show up here early in the mornings. It's a matter of organizing. Can we have somebody, you know, if there are early practices, that doesn't work, but, you know, if we have another space that we could be doing some, you know, agility, different types of things like that, movement, that you don't have to be an athlete, it's just good for, you know, health and wellness. Yeah, I do think there's a big market for that, or I don't know how to best say that, but I think we got numbers that would really, and I think we could really grow that.
So that'd be kind of like a before school program.
I think there could be before and
child
after, just like, you know, doing things like that. I think as we continue to improve our technology usage and different things like that, an opportunity to come after school, utilize some technology, and then go to a new space and get some movement, you know, and do some different things like that. I think kids would really be interested in that. I mean, just watching. I mean, the kids are in the lunchroom, you know, during those games activities. I was thinking about driving here, actually about this with, you know, at a football game. How many kids are playing behind the bleachers or out in the grass fields? I mean, kids wanted opportunities for that. It is having the space to provide it, and then some adult direction, supervision, however you grow that, you know. But I do think, yeah, that there is a big opportunity for that with a new space. And a new space, I think, raises that interest because kids would love to be in anything new like that. And all you need is, you know, if you have a little patch of turf or if you have some soft flooring, I mean, that's stuff that you could do a bunch of different activities with kids and allow them to just move around and work on some different things. So yeah, I do think there's opportunities for that.
Okay, thank you.
I would just add here that I'm on the Parkston Learning Center board, daycare board, and we have approximately 40 or 50 kids there right now. And so Mr. Fisher talked about enrollment. It's there. And so
needed in this community.
so we need to help that cause. There's a gap from when school gets out to when parents get back from work today. There's that gap, and we can't supply.
That's not the place for it.
Yeah, we don't have enough room in it.
Yeah.
Mr. Mickey.
I mean, it is, but you're tapped.
Right.
That's an age limit, I suppose. With school-aged kids, they have to go somewhere else.
But not necessarily that, it's just staffing. You can only have so many kids per employee there.
Sure.
It's all regulated.
And then if you have a big surge after school for 2 hours for 20 kids or whatever it is.
And I mean, we love to try and work with that, we just don't have it up.
You know, another idea for like if we would ever do an after-school program is involving like high school students interested in education, or you know, I mean, you can be really creative with those things. But
what's the plan right now with like our wrestling room? If we would, because I know with this new multi-purpose room we talked about putting mats in there. What would go with that room right now? I mean,
I'm not sure I can answer that. Eric, probably the only one sitting there with a vision. If you're kind of that build it, they will come kind of concept. What would you do with the space for the existing room? What's been a vision for it, if anything?
I don't know if anybody else has thought about it. I have, just because, well, I have nothing better to do. But to me, the first thing we got to look at is storage. I mean, that's one of our handicaps. And if we build that, we open up the weight room and the wrestling room. Now, if we're going to do something along the lines of what you guys are talking about, to me, you leave one of the old wrestling mats in there, so you've got a soft floor. You could do 100 different things in there. The weight room turns into more of the storage facility, or the weight room turns into a locker room, and then that other place is a storage room because it's already attached to a storage room. You could extend the two. Those are the most two likely situations. Classroom-wise, I think, Mr. Fisher, you agree, we've got classroom space, so that wouldn't have to be a classroom type of situation. So those are the two most likely places that we would go with it, and at the very least you could cut it in half with an artificial wall, and back half is storage because that's all attached. Front half you could have something else that you see fit. We've talked about, you know, adding things. I can almost guarantee you the next thing you guys will talk about adding is gaming. The Activities Association will be adding gaming in the next year or two. That would be Xbox, whatever. That is a sport now across the country. They will be adding that here real shortly, and that will be one every school will have kids interested in participating.
Yep.
So just to let you know, that is probably the next thing that will be discussed.
Dakota, you gotta keep in mind here, Dakota State.
I know.
We're building a how many $1 million technology facility, and they already have. So you can earn a college scholarship to go to Dakota State University right now and compete on their e-gaming team. And then it's like winning national championships, football, basketball, doesn't matter.
It seems
I was right
like
next to Dakota
amazing.
State at the career fair.
Oh, you
and
were?
Between my welding simulator and their video games.
Who got the most hits?
Well, I'll take a close second in that
Okay.
one, but at least that was a close second. But yeah,
So, I know that's sidetracking it, but that's really what I can see there. And that could be what you use that for. You could make that into any little gaming space.
Oh my God,
What
we're
kind
not
of
doing any
games,
kids
just out
in
of
sports.
curiosity?
Just about anything right now. If you
even
follow
start a
the kids,
program.
especially the boys on YouTube, they're watching 100 different games. But your Call of Duties, those sort of things, but
We don't have Call of Duty.
You couldn't have that in school, could you?
they've got different versions basically. But it's that same. That's a game that you guys have probably heard of.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to throw out a bunch of the other ones, but they're all those first-person type of shooter
They're really
things.
unique. I mean, I just, over Christmas, we did a family trip, first time pretty much forever. Went to Las Vegas. So, in walking through some of the casinos, I mean, they have that space. I mean, I sat there and watched. I don't know,
And they'll have
probably
Madden
a dozen
tournaments
kids, not
and
kids, but a
NBA
dozen.
2K
They weren't
tournaments
kids,
and-
they were adults. They're in these
Oh,
high functioning chairs, puts my lazy boy to, shame, and monitors, and then the control systems, and whether they had the virtual thing. I mean, those people were the headsets on, and I mean, it was.
My words with my
I don't quite understand it. I'm not one of those. But yeah, I mean, it's real, and it is coming. There's other states already have sanctioned the sport at the high school level, So, but I can tell you the nature of kids, even your kids that what we would typically consider to be athletes. If we lined up the football team for you and asked how many of them would be interested in something like that.
That's why I said we won't have any
You- you would
athletes
be-
anymore. That we won't need to have a softball
No.
program
Right.
because
The reverse of that, though, I've got a nephew that has probably 8 different gaming systems, but he also has reprogrammed computers, and he's a freshman in high school. I mean, he's 100% nerd used in the positive
The
way,
positive term, yes.
where he dives into that, and that's the ones that are going to excel at that, not just the one that likes to play Xbox in the evenings, and he understands all the codes written on the backside and everything else with it. So,
Interesting.
it's a great way to get a few students that maybe wouldn't be interested in a lot of other things involved.
It's
so,
coming.
Anyway,
Real quick to double
their
back
coach.
to your description. I think whether we use it for some sort of after school, I think the description still kind of nails it as far as it's kind of outlined in here, multi-purpose. I don't know that we need to really go any further than that.
Right, and I agree. I agree with that. Just as a
that's a good idea.
general-
Though. It's a
No,
good
I think
one.
that's a great
Overall
idea.
We get that.
Okay. So I'm more, the date, time frame, are you ready to
Might as well.
step forward?
Let's
And
do it.
I'll do what I can to find a venue to publish it. If I can't do that,
Do you
then
agree?
I'll just reach out to those people by email and say, hey, are you interested? Let me know. So,
Okay, sounds good.
thank
all
you.
right. So we are to advertise the RFP presented to the board for architectural services. That's the motion. Moved by Schoenfelder, seconded by Weber. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the action is approved school 22-23 calendar.
I know that's early. You don't have to approve that, being my first statement right now, knowing that you're just seeing that for the first time. I've had one question on it. I don't know what Mr. Fisher or Mr. Norton can share. They were on the committee. I haven't had any of the teachers that were on the committee come share with me and say, hey, this is coming off the rails, or people are, venting, or they don't want to do this, or it seems to be, too much. But I think I put in the notes, there's only really 2 changes in approach on that. And one is the half-day in-service days. And if that's too many, I'm fine with that. I just threw them out there. Nothing. It can be less. It could be. I don't care. It could be more. The only thing I would say this, and I told the committee, we cannot continue to do 1 day in the fall, 1 day in the spring. That does not allow us as administrators enough time to work with those staff to engage them in professional development that is relevant and purposeful for them. That's my opinion on that. I don't know if Adam and or Mr. Fisher and Mr. Norton have a different opinion on that. I don't think they do. We've never really expressed anything different than that. So I know it takes some time out of our school day in order to do that. You know, dismissing at 1 o'clock is not an idea notion. I just want to encourage you, or at least give you some solace and know that if you did something like this, you're not the only ones with the approach. It's quite a common practice as far as doing and orchestrating professional development for your teachers. So I think that's one of the things that you have to take a look at, and if you want to embrace or not. And then the other one would be based on our conversation when the girls were fortunate enough to make the state volleyball tournament. We had some conversations about what do we do with the rest of the state volleyball or state tournaments. Are we creating equity here? Are we approaching them on the same principles? Meaning we always take the Friday of each girls and boys basketball tournament off. It's just been notorious. You know, we didn't have anything on the calendar to address, you know, the girls volleyball or to address football. You know, track is a non-issue because it's after school. Mr. Norton and I talked about golf. I actually forgot golf on that, but we talked about the fall golf, and you know, spring golf is not an issue because that's an after-school event. But state competitive cheer is on there, gymnastics is on there. You know, so we think we captured them all, but the notion that I would explain there, and this was actually not my idea, this was from the teachers on the committee, if I remember right, that probably Mr. Fisher was in and out that day, but Mr. Norton, they said, what about if on those dates that we didn't have school, we didn't interfere with students who maybe wanted to attend those events, and if adults or the staff wanted to attend those events regardless of our participation or not, you know, they would have to take a personal day, call it a day of work, but their notion was, can we go visit another school? Can I, as a fax teacher, go to another school and spend a day in their fax program? Could I, as an ag teacher, go look at somebody else? Even as a 4th grade teacher, could I go spend another day or two with somebody else's classroom and just listen and converse and watch what those particular teachers do? So, Mrs. Leichner, you never say much, but I see you shaking your head. I mean, what if I gave you that? What if I gave you that opportunity?
Lesson, as John says it, back when Mr. Nelson was the principal, there were some community times like that where we were given a half day to go and do something like that.
Right.
Even as colony teachers, I don't know, but I think it was grade level. You know, the first grade teachers would have a half day to meet and collaborate. And I always came away from those with ideas for, you know.
So there was value in it for you?
There was, yes.
Whether it was in-house or even going outside the system?
You know, times have changed so much, and now it's all, you go to the internet, but still nothing beats face-to-face interaction in my book. Building that relationship is not done as, the nuances aren't there of getting to know someone over the computer or over Zoom as when you're face-to-face. I guess from my perspective, I would see value with that.
Sure. Good. So if you look at the totality of the student contact days, I can tell you that that went down from 175 to 172, and then the teachers are expected, because it's within the master agreement, it says in there 177 days, so that held steady. They're still working that number of days. So just the first glance at it, you know, I guess I think there was concerns at when we changed that in November, you know, that we're changing the calendar, and that maybe puts people behind the 8 ball. And we talked about it as a committee. What are those parents going to say when we're out at 1 o'clock on all those dates? What am I going to do with my kid? You know, where are they supposed to go? I get what you're saying, Matt, from an after-school perspective. You know, we're creating an experience there where we're kind of throwing them under the bus, so to speak. But, you know, if you want the system, you want your opportunity, your teachers to improve, be better, do better, the opportunities to either bring people in front of them, send them to other places, create learning experiences, whether it's us in-house, that the time has to be built in order to do that. I'm passionate about that. I believe in that. I've lived that for many years. And I don't know how one day in the fall and one day in the spring just does not get us to that point. So sometimes you just take it, you know. It's no different than a snow day. You know, they seem to figure something out then. I mean, I'm not being sarcastic or facetious in their approach to that, but I mean, you know.
And this gives people ample time to plan for that. You know, it's on the calendar. They can plan now.
Right.
You know.
We really haven't had a chance to visit with the staff collectively. A week from today, we have an in-service. So worst case scenario, this thing doesn't have to be in cement right now. Here's what I would propose to you, because it's on my list of things for next Monday to have some conversation about. Worst case scenario, you table it for now. Let us go talk to the staff collectively as a whole and see if they, you know, hang us upside down on the flagpole or put us in front of the firing squad and get all kinds of negative feedback, and then, you know, we can have that conversation. If they don't, there's not a whole lot of clamoring about it, then hey, we can bring it back to you guys, maybe with a tweak, maybe not with a tweak, but say, here's what we're proposing, and then...
If we approve it, can't we just reapprove the changes?
You could. Yep. I mean, you could do it that way. I mean, I would just allow, what I would ask you, I guess, in that instance, Jill, is that, you know, because we're not pressured for time right now, let us talk to those people.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then bring it back to you guys so we don't have to maybe go do that. So, Mr. Schoenfelder, you were...
Just real quick, so right now you've got 5 PD days, right?
Um,
That's what it looks like. I mean, student contact 172 and paid contract days 177,
I
right?
get my magnifying glass. One, the 10th would be 2, the 7th.
So there's
is just
10
out.
in-service days that are 2 hours apiece, so that comes up to a 20 total hours. If you figure that each day with 7 hours of in-service before, that's 14, so you're adding a half a day.
Oh, just a question for you. You know, at some of these days, you know, doing in-service from 1 o'clock to, what is it, 3:30? 3. I mean, just a question. Do you think you're getting good bang for buck out of that, just 2 hours? Or would it be better to consolidate that?
If my experience has been, Jed, if I do my job, I can make it intentional. I can make it purposeful. I can get done what I need to get done within that time frame. Whether that's even bringing somebody in, or creating a learning experience within-house, or using our own resources in-house, other people to come and share. I've done it both ways. I won't say one way is better than the other, but doing it something like this, I mean, it doesn't scare me, and I think there is value in that. You can get it done if you're doing it right. Now, consolidating some of them, and that's certainly, I'm not opposed to that. If we want to lessen some of those days and create a more half-time day where we're increasing the amount of time, I think that you helped me with the lunch aspect on that, because it kind of gets
right now,
hairy.
1 o'clock is a nice time because that's the end of the last lunch. We can get everything done. The other thing I think that's fair to say is, and you know this, teachers' attention spans aren't any better than
they're worse
kids.
sometimes.
Most of the time, much worse. So a 2-hour span actually helps them focus. And so, okay, for 2 hours I can be here. If it's 4 hours halfway through, it's...
No, I was just curious. This just seemed, I mean, I've never seen anything quite like this, but this is cool. I think it's purposeful, and I think it's lean. I was just curious your take on it.
So for clarification, those 3 new days off for the championships, those are going to be teacher work days,
Yeah,
and the other 3 are not,
yeah.
just like they work.
And the work day, I don't have a definition for that. I was asked that today. What does that mean? Other than that would be an opportunity for them, if that's what they so choose, we know ahead of time, you know, I'm working today, but I'm going to Hanson. I mean, I'm gonna go spend the day with that 3rd grade teacher, 4th grade teacher, that shop teacher, that music teacher, whatever it happens to be, so.
And then I think we had also had some conversation about the hourly staff too.
For sure, you know, so we talked about that. It's a great point, Lindsay, that, you know, we have enough resources, I think, moving forward with some investments. I've sent Mr. Fisher and another staff member to a concept, some PD called Totem. And within this Totem software, this platform, really designed on behavioral intervention, where we could keep our paras engaged in learning, even on those work days that it's going to be online learning, or even learning potentially directed by even Mr. Fisher or Mr. Norton, or even myself, as we become immersed in that software to make sure that they're engaged in the learning experience as well, not just the our certified staff, that the classified would have opportunities for learning as well. So, yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. But
And what is the required number of contact days?
so it's hours, and it's I provided that to the committee, and for a kindergartner, it's 480 something 0.5, which is hardly anything. 1st through 5th grader, it is 845, 55, somewhere in there, and then a 6th through 12 is 962.5 hours. So I told the committee, and they were sitting there doing the math, and when you put it out, you look at it, our minutes in a day that we have recorded in our Infinite Campus. Not the whole day, because you can't cut out passing time, recess time, lunchtime. This is instructional time. A high school can meet those expected hours middle of April. The elementary, about the same, even a little less. And then people make this statement, well, then why are we going till the middle of May? Because your contract says you're going to work 177 days, that's why. Or the master agreement says. And why? Because
That's what's best for kids.
yeah, I mean, that's the right thing to do, and you want to engage kids in the learning experience. And we're a little bit of the Industrial Revolution model. I agree, you know, because we're not preparing kids for that anymore, but that start time, we talked about September to, you know, back in the day. I don't ever remember that as a kid, going to school after Labor Day. I honestly don't know. But ever since I've been in education, we've been to school mid-August and got out mid-May. That's 30 years. So, but if we meet the hours.
That was my question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So,
I like it.
we gonna table
We'll just table
the
it.
adoption?
Sounds like then we'll bring it back.
I would appreciate it. Give us an opportunity to go stand in front of the firing squad and see what they really say.
Okay,
That doesn't take a motion, does it, or anything?
nope.
Okay.
All right, F is approved coaching resignation.
And you just, you know, it's in your packet, you saw it, that just needs stipulation that approved or accepted with pending suitable replacement. So,
Moved by Leisure. Second by Schoenfelder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
All right, G is consider Rodney Freeman for negotiations.
kind of flying blind on that a little bit, other than what these guys have told me, Craig and Mr. Norton. I've talked with Rodney. That's simply, I think you put in my notes there, that's what Craig gave me that number, you know, what it takes in order to do that. So, I've never used that approach before, but that's fine. I have no problems with that, so, if you guys don't.
That's what we're going past up.
Go smooth.
Okay, so motion to approve hiring Rodney Freeman for negotiating services.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Weber, seconded by Nebel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So passed.
Last action item is approve educational structure change middle school.
We put the letter in your packet. Mr. Norton kind of spoke to that a little bit earlier, but, you know, kind of the plan as to how to engage those at least fifth graders moving up. It's more of, we want, I guess, seeking a motion from you guys, just public acknowledgement that, yep, we understand it. We know they're gonna have an educational structure change. I have to have the forms to the State Department of Ed by the end of the month that we are going to change from a Parkston Junior High to a Parkston Middle School and change those grade structures from 7th and 8th to a 6th through 8 and an elementary from pre-K through 6 to a pre-K through 5. So.
All right.
So, motion to approve structural change for junior high structure to middle school structure.
So moved.
Moved by Nebel. Second by Leishner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved.
All right. Well, we'll take, do we have to go out? Recess? And then,
Yep. You'll clear the room, so to speak,
Yeah.
and then before you make a motion to go into executive session, so, I mean, you can just, you're good. Everybody want to get up, go to the bathroom or whatever, and we'll go into executive session for personnel and negotiations, so.
Recess at 8:56?
Yep.
Okay. For executive session. Or we'll come back.